You know, we tend to want to be seen as masculine, and in our display of masculinity, we don't want to be vulnerable, we don't want to seem weak, we don't want anyone to think that, you know, we're weak when we're feeling that level of pain, but we can't help but wanting the help, because all of us here on the live, we know what it is like to be um, experiencing excruciating pain, and you're in the emergency room. And then there's also the stereotype, because I've also been to, and we won't call any hospital, well, we'll try not to call any hospital names
Right,
tonight.
right.
But I remember just going to one of the hospitals about 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was just feeling a lot of pain in my back and in my hip bone. Um, and one of the porters that came out to greet me, I was asking for a wheelchair, and they were saying that there was no wheelchair available. And I was saying, I'm unable to move, I'm unable to walk. And the porter, under his breath, made a comment, because he never wanted me to hear the comment that, yeah, man, toughen up and walk. And that just added to the pain that I was actually feeling already. Because I'm saying the narrative is that because you're a man, you are supposed to be a machine. You're supposed to be made from metal. You're supposed to be made from materials that don't feel pain. And sometimes I see the nurses behave that way, where they're like, Lord, sir, una feel little pain, and una come go on like a dead, una dead. And I keep
Yup,
wondering,
yup.
um, are these people medically trained to deal with sickle cell? Because I keep asking the question, if you are exposed to the thing properly, then you know that persons who are experiencing crisis, they are going through really bad pain. And the one of the examples I've used over and over, it is a bone crushing experience. There is no way that you can turn um, to alleviate the pain. Most times, when a person living with sickle cell turns up to the emergency room, it's because the home remedies have not worked. And
Right.
just to add context to our conversation, um, last night I started feeling some pain, and I was like, Jesus have mercy, I don't want this thing to escalate, because I don't think I want a hospital run right now. Um, and you know, I took some pain medication, and after taking the pain medication, you know, I tried to go sleep, and the pain felt like it was getting worse, and I'm like, no, I have to just try and tough it out a little bit more, because to be hospitalized right now would throw up a lot of stuff. So there are many times now, when you are feeling the pain and you have to try and press through. And even right now, while doing the live, I don't feel so hot. I don't feel so great. There are feeling some minor cramps, and I'm just trying to ensure that, you know, I'm medicating and staying hydrated, because Kingston is really hot. You know, Kingston, Jamaica has really been seeing a lot of hot nights. Um, but as we talk about, you know, trying to press through the pain, I want to go to you, Alex, because you have had a lot of frequent hospitalization. I know that this has also affected your educational journey and your professional journey. So for the
Right, right.
persons who are listening on Instagram, on Facebook, and also on YouTube, just walk us through, how does that make you feel, you know, knowing that you don't. Just talk to us about the crushed dreams. Take it away.
All right, so let me just paint a picture for you. So in 2019, I started theology. I started going to Bethel Bible College, where I was supposed to get a start the process of getting a degree or certificate in theology and so forth. So that was 2019. Now we're in 2023. Now I applied again this year to start because I was supposed to start. I kept falling off because one, keep on getting sick. Two, my admission rate was getting high. So I'll be good this minute, admitted for 2 days, and then the next minute I'm admitted for 2 weeks, and so forth. So I am not able to focus on classes. I'm not able to study as I ought to be. Even just the other day, I had to be I think it was not last week, but the week before, when I was at the hospital, classes just started, and I had to be at the hospital on Zoom, getting fluids, getting pain medication, and trying to pay attention to classes that I have in the moment. Trying not to fall asleep, trying not to get distracted because of the amount of pain that I'm feeling. And as you stated something not too long ago, saying that you're not feeling so well. It's this morning I got discharged from the hospital after being there for 3 days. Right, so I got home this morning around 9 o'clock, and so after being there for 3 days. So my educational journey, 2019, started university, and I'm still not even halfway complete. I'm not anywhere near completion to to the degree. So it's either I keep stopping, I keep after doing over courses, I keep failing or something, and it's not because I'm not um academic. It's not because I'm academically challenged or nothing, because that's not the case. Pretty brilliant. It's just that I'm not able to focus and go through classes like the regular university student. I'm not able to uphold to the standard. And then the thing about it is that not a lot of persons understand what sickle cell is. Even though you advocate for it, even though you explain it, it makes you feel like you're a delinquent, that you're lazy, that you don't want to do anything. And then I'm saying, I don't feel well and I don't have the mental capacity to do this today. Is it, can I? No, because everybody else have to do it and you're alone sick. I'm not, I didn't say that. But I'm pretty sure not everybody have a HBSS. Not everybody having joint pains, pain to the chest, pain to the back, pain to the knees and everywhere. I'm the one that is facing it and I asked for this. This year again, I started working. I got my first job, my first real job this year, and I only lasted 2.5 months in the institution. And so my very first day when I was doing the orientation, I made it clear. I said, hey, I have sickle cell. There are going to be days when I'm not feeling so 100. There are going to be days when I can't, but I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do everything. They said, all right, then no problem. We'll see what we can do to best to to facilitate you here. Within the first 3 weeks, I was good for the first 3 weeks, and some after that, when I started working now, I was outside of training. I was working on the floor now, and some bear in mind, it's a call center format. So therefore, the floor is cold. I'm in tall sleeve shirts, I'm in sweater, I'm in dress pants, and I'm in socks. I have I have 2 tall bottles at my station with water, and I'm still freezing. I'm still there, and I'm saying, hey, I can't do this. Can the AC be turned on? No, we have 30% on the production floor. Can't turn on the AC for one person. I said, I understand that, but I'm not able to do my job. Well, you're just going to have to tough it out. And it brings back to the topic where you're saying that, because we are man, we're supposed to behave. I put that all of a sudden, once I become sick, I don't care how I'm viewed. I don't care if I look weak or I sound effeminate or I look something, I sick. I don't have the patience or the tolerance to try to be manly and try to put on this macho demeanor when I'm in pain and I sit down and curl up. Right? I cannot help the pain that I'm feeling. I can't control the pain that I'm feeling. There's nothing I can do about it. And my supervisor came and she said to me, we understand that you're sick. We understand that this is a situation. But she didn't say to me that you need to go, but she said to me, you need to go. So she didn't use those words, but she
But it
implied
was
that,
evident.
you're holding down the team, right? You're holding down the team and you're not performing up to the level that we want you to perform. So it's best if you just, um,
Leave the job.
go. And well, she never said that, but then that's what I got, and I had to send in my resignation after just being here for 2.5 months, just because I couldn't. I remember even leaving work some days to go to the emergency room in my work attire, and everybody's looking at me and like, oh, what you just said? I said, I'm coming from work. I am sick. I have to come here. Sometimes I have to leave from the emergency room to go to work. Because so that's just my journey on a whole, and that is not even everything, but that's what can share for now.
Ah, Alex, there's so much that you said a while ago, so much
So
that we
much.
can unpack.
Sorry.
Like literally, we could talk about your story on a podcast, and maybe we need to evolve this space into a podcast setting so that we can delve
Definitely.
more into some of the real issues that are going on. But I know that you
Mhm.
said that you were also in the emergency room and you were trying to pay attention to school. And let me make it clear for those who are listening. So most times when I go to the emergency room, I'm using my experience. They would start with some lower scale drugs and work their way up. And when they would get to like the morphine, sometimes the morphine will make you feel a little bit woozy. So if you're getting the morphine via IV, you can feel very sleepy. And morphine is one of those drugs that it can knock you out, put you to bed. So just imagine receiving morphine, a drug that is high in sedative values that can knock you out, and you're still trying to pay attention to what is going on in a classroom. There are persons who they don't have that dynamics. And I've seen many times where even myself as a U.S. student, there are days when um, I would come from the hospital, the morphine is still in my system, but I would still try to get up and finish an essay because the essay is due. Or the fact that you still have to figure out a way to get through an exam while one, you're still feeling some pains in your body and the examination room is cold, and all of these dynamics. So it's not one of those things to deal with, especially as a man. Sometimes, there's this narrative that man is time just weak and feeble, and is almost a case of masculinity is only like if you were to say you're in pain, it takes away from your masculinity. It takes away from you being seen as a man that is competent and capable. But I want to go to something where you're concerned, Jermaine. I know that you went on to participate in a pageant, and I want you to just tell us real quickly about that pageant and even your experience educationally and just your journey advocating for persons living with sickle cell.
All right, no problem. Alex said a lot, and I really wanted to comment on some of the things that he said, because he was just going on and on, and I was sitting here, I was like, yo, that is definitely it. I must give you all respect though, because I can see that you guys both have SS and I just have SC, which is not as bad, or not the full extent, but we can relate on many levels. But before I touch on some of the things that Alex said, well, I mean, I attended the Micro University College. I started in 2013 and completed my studies in 2017, but it was definitely not without struggles. I am someone that I love to be active, despite of what my mother may always remind me, oh, Jermaine, you're sickly, so you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, I once I condition my mind to doing something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to think about anything else at all. I'm just going to get it done, right? So my journey in college, it was a good journey. I probably took sick twice. I mean, I remember one time we were having sports day, and I volunteered to do one of the cross country runs.
Hmm.
With a man around the field like about 15 times. I was just doing that to give my house a points. I know I was not going to win, of course, but I wanted to do it and just to support my house while being on hall, and I did it. But at the end of the race, though, I started feeling weird. I started feeling like something was happening. So I went up. I went straight to my room and I laid down in the bed. And the next thing you know, I was in an ambulance going to the
Hmm.
hospital, because I got sick, and it wasn't even. I think it was a pain in my chest, and at the end of the day, it was discovered that I had pneumonia,
Wow.
and this thing. I tell you, I caught pneumonia about 5 or 6 times throughout my
Wow.
lifetime. Because one thing about my sickle cell disease is that my blood count is low. So any little thing, it's easy for me to grab a hold of it. Um, so that was the case with me. Most of the times when I admitted in a hospital while I was a bit older, it was due to pneumonia. One time I went on a Blue Mountain hike, and I went up there. I mean, I felt like my blood literally froze. I was frozen from toe right up, and I mean, I woke up the morning. We slept on the peak. I woke up the morning and I left everything. I left my bag. I left my friends. I left everything, and I started heading down to find the sun because I wanted some warmth because I was really cold. And after that, I ended up in the hospital because I caught pneumonia because of the hot and the cold and everything that was in it. And it's always rough. It's always rough. I spent most of my hospital when I was in most of my days in hospital. I was in high school, and this took away from the learning process, the teaching and learning process, because I felt as if I wasn't as bright as my brothers and sisters because I was in the hospital too frequently. So I felt like I wasn't grasping enough. I felt like I wasn't getting enough out of school that would have enabled me to perform at the level I wanted to perform. So that was really challenging for me growing up. But nonetheless, I every chance I got on my 2 feet, I took it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I was really ill growing up, and it was due to the fact that I went home and I was walking in the rain. And when I got home and I was sick, and I was sick for a couple of days, and my father said he was not going to take me to the hospital because I was disobedient, and he told me not to walk in the rain, and I still walked in the rain,
Wow.
and I was home and I was sick, and until literally blood started coming through my nose. And my mother was away at the time, and she was in Mandeville, Montego Bay side working. And she came home the weekend, and she saw how sick I was, and she didn't even hesitate. She took me to the hospital at the same time, and the doctor told her that if I had stayed one more day at home, I would have died because I had pneumonia, and it was really bad to the point where I had bleedings, and that was a crazy experience. I felt like I came to death's door twice in my lifetime. That was the first time. The second time was when I was in college and I caught pneumonia, and I was admitted at a hospital in Kingston, trying not to
Yeah, we're
call
trying
it.
not to call in hospitals. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
I literally felt like I was dying, and I was like, "Yo, God, this is it. This is it. I am tired of the constant pain and crisis. I'm tired of, sickle cell. I'm tired of everything. Just do me a favor and just kind of take me right now because
Amen.
I,
Amen. We've all had a prayer.
We've all prayed
I
that
don't
prayer,
know.
Jermaine.
Trust me, I've been there, and even to mention, as a man having sickle cell disease, I mean, most of the time when once the pain lick me, I start ball. I'm probably not as hardcore as some of y'all. Me when I was younger and I was feeling pain, I was crying crazy. And probably that's why I don't know, because I know that not all sickle cell patients when they're having pain they cry.
Yeah.
Some of them they face just straight same way, but they're feeling the intensity of the pain still. And I believe that that has an impact when they go to hospitals and the nurses and doctors don't say they're crying. They feel like it's a joke. So because you're not crying, because you're there saying that you're feeling pain, but you're not showing any signs that you're feeling pain.
That's it.
Yeah.
Why should I believe you? Yeah. But me ball. Like I cry because the pain is so intense. I try to man it up. I try to hold it in. But guys, me holla, me ball. I was in Michael. I was at Michael and I was a part of the dance society. Guys, I tell you, I do everything because I know that I live with this. Every opportunity I get to do something, I do. I was a part of the debating society. I was a part of the cadet. I was a part of dance. I was a part of volleyball, and I was doing track and field at one time. I was doing so much because living with this, you feel like you don't have enough time to do certain things,
That's true. Talk truth. Talk truth.
especially when you're well. So I was just taking the opportunity to do everything I could. And I remember when we just had a dance, we went to the dance theater, little theater, and we did a dance piece. And I mean, I was dancing, I was giving my energy and everything. And I felt while I was dancing, I felt the pain, but I held it. I held it because I wanted to complete the dance. Because the dance just said, if we faint or anything in the dance, then we would be disqualified. So I held it together as the dance finished. I go in the back and I dropped down. I dropped down again. Ambulance take me out of the place. I was in a hospital crying, screaming like I was a little girl or a little boy
No. It's
because the
fine.
pain.
It's fine. You would have to use the
Yeah, it,
gender.
it is fine.
Yeah, you
But
got to use
I'm just
gender
letting
to
you know
describe it.
how
Yeah.
hard I was
Yeah.
trying. And I was in college. I would have been considered a big man. Yeah. And one of the things I did not tell my dance teacher I had sickle cell, and this is one of the things that I grew up talking with. I never normally tell people because I felt like they look at me different, they treated me different, and I never wanted that. So growing up with this, I told nobody. My best friends, my classmates, my teachers, I told nobody that I had this because I was afraid of what came with it. So I kept it to myself. I dealt with it. I dealt with it for myself. So most of my life, I felt pretty much like a loner. Like I was just doing this on my own. I must give thanks for my family because they were there all the way. They supported me whenever I'm sick. I remember daddy have to lift me up every time I'm sick. Guys, I can't move. Like I can't walk. I can't move on my own. My father normally have to lift me up, pump on him back. I remember when I was living in Rosemont, Linstead, and every time I took sick, we were like a mile away from the town. And most time daddy have to put me on him back and walk with me all the way to Linstead town to grab a taxi to go to the hospital or in try call one of friend them a drive come pick me up because sickle cell does that to you. It cripples you. It takes away a lot from you. So you can't really do anything. So when you say you wanted a wheelchair, I could relate to that. Yeah, because the pain does that. Sometimes I feel embarrassed though as a man, and I remember one time when I was in that hospital and I was so sick, and my father had to come and he had to literally we call it being or tidy me,
Yeah.
whichever it is. He had to do that to me, and oh my god, I was like, oh Jesus. I'm a big man. I look at my father now. When I should be the one taking care of him,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's there
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
and washing me down and cleaning me up, and I was like, yo. So when I look back on all these things, and I see what it has done to me, and I have to use it as like a stepping stone. I have to say, every chance we get, I'm gonna trample sickle cell disease, and I'm gonna stand up on it and make people know, say, you know what,
Yeah.
this can't stop me from doing nothing. And that's how I entered the pageant. I mean, before I even talk about how I entered the pageant, I've always lacked confidence, and sickle cell did that for me as well. It took away my confidence in myself. Like I never believed in myself. I never had the confidence because I just felt like somehow I
You
was
were different.
incapable. Yeah, and I was different. And worse, I was keeping this to myself. It was a burden on the inside. You understand? And I lacked confidence even up until I joined the pageant. I joined the pageant since year.
Wow.
I was like I was the latest contestant to join actually. When they reached out to me and they said they're doing a pageant and they invited me to join, I opted to join the pageant, and um, it was a really good journey. I mean, I learned a lot about self because when you look at pageant, you would think that it's all about beauty and body and all that and all of those things, but it's a lot of internalization. It's about self actualization, and you have to have something up here say that in a one pageant because you have to know how to answer question and to brand yourself, and not just yourself but the agency as well or the company whichever is hosting the pageant. And I entered this pageant, and they had regional, they had nationals, and then they had international. And in the regional competition, I was the first runner up. I was the first runner up. My friend Colin Armsby, he won regional. He was the king for regional. But then I went on to national. I was qualified for national, and I went on to national. And you know, at the end of the day, I came out victorious. I was selected, Mr. King Imperial Jamaica, and next year, God's willing, I will be on the international stage representing Jamaica at one of those international
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
pageants.
We love that for you, Jermaine. Yeah. We love
So
that for you,
I
man.
mean, I the thing about me is that Noel, Orlando, I just push beyond the limits because I don't allow sickle cell to really cripple me
Yeah.
or to try and hold me down because I know how it can be. I say my sister has it, one of my brother has it, and from the standpoint of seeing them going through their pains and crises, I know how that feel, and nobody out there knows how it feels. So when we go out there to the hospital and worse on the job, I remember when I was working at ITEL, and the room always cold. I never stayed there long though, thank God. But I was at JNDI for 3 years, and me and them have problem, man, because me not run to go turn on the AC. Every single minute me get cold, I get up and I go turn that AC down. So it's like a back and forth thing all the time. And really and truly, I didn't care because I have to look out for me because nobody else is doing it. You get me? The manager, the supervisor,
Right.
nobody else is. So I wear my sweaters and I coat up, but sometimes it gets really cold. Sometimes I just sneak and I hide and I just go and I go to the bathroom, I just study down and come back and I see it. And just to ensure that I take care of myself and I don't find myself in a place where I can't do what I want to do and to live life as God would want me to live it. And there's a lot more to say, but I'm just gonna give some guys a chance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys are sharing some powerful stories. I'm trying as best to share some of the comments as we go along. But we haven't been able to share some of the Instagram comment. But the persons on Instagram, they are cheering us on and they're just sharing some of their comments and sentiments. And you, both of you, would have summarized what it is like on a general basis for a person that's living with sickle cell, what it is like in the healthcare system. And I want to put a word in both of your mind as we come to that part of the conversation, and it's priapism, because we're talking about all things men tonight. Um, so before I get to priapism and what it is, I just want to add to it when you talk about that pneumonia experience, Jermaine. I remember in 2019, um, my group and I were doing an event called Shabak, and while we were at Shabak, I remember feeling a pain in my chest. Um, and as one of the leaders of the team, you have to be pushing through to get through the event. But there was this nasty pain in my chest, and I said, God, I have to see Shabak through. Nah, leave. And when Shabak ended, I remember the following week I just developed this persistent cough. And just to cut the long story short, I went to the hospital and I developed what is called acute chest syndrome. And that thing was nasty to go through. My chest felt like it was just going to collapse, like the pains that I was feeling. And then, you're in a place where you're supposed to be getting care, and it feels like they're adding to the pressure of what you're going through. Um, so as we get to priapism now, just for the persons who are not medically inclined, and to also keep it PG. So priapism is a non-erotic erection. So it's an erection of the male genital that is useless. It's not sexually stimulated. It just happens where blood gets stuck in the genital, and the longer the erection lasts, the more damage that can happen to the genital. And there are instances where men would receive or they go through a priapism and they now live with erectile dysfunction, or sometimes they experience one or two priapism and that is it for their sex life. Now, we're men, and this is a part of our masculinity, is a part of our ego as it relates to that. We barely even want to go to the hospital where we feel pain in our
Right.
hand and in our knee. So imagine getting a priapism and then have to be going to the emergency room where if it doesn't resolve normally, Here comes the butterfly needles that they are going to have to
Yes.
poke inside your genital and pull the blood. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had that experience and would want to share that experience, but I'm just sharing it for the wider public that as men we do go through it with living with sickle cell. Alex, is this something that you'd like to talk on? Because I see you saying yes.
I'm always open to discuss anything sickle cell. Ah, so I've said it. I've said I'll take the chest pains. I'll take the back pain. I'll take the joint pain. I'll take everything, but I do not want to deal with paraprism.
Yeah,
I think for me, paraprism is one of the worst things I can feel.
yeah,
Right? I have no control over it. I don't know when it's going to start, when it's going to happen. I go on my bed 1 minute, the next minute I'm up with an erection where that's not going down, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again,
yeah,
right? And thankfully, for um in recent times, I have not had it that much or that much where I need to go to the ER for it. I've had one and two book-ups probably since year last year where, I had to get it and do it, but not where it escalated to the point where I had to it need to be aspirated.
yeah.
Um, I remember when at a certain hospital, because we're not calling names, I went there and um I explained to them what was happening, and they said okay, and they carried me and they said, all right then, since that it's not going away, we're going to have to aspirate. And I said, mighty God of Daniel,
Hmm.
I don't know, I don't know, everything just gone and something. It's funny, but it's embarrassing. They had to
Yeah,
restrain you. They had to
yeah.
restrain you to aspirate me. That's how bad it was. I had to be restrained for them to aspirate because it's one of the worst things that could happen. Because when they're doing it and it's going on for hours, even when them say them numb it and everything, and I'm saying you
Nope,
can't tell me say you're numbing it, and I
nope.
feel every single thing that you're doing. I can
You
tell you
feel
what you're
every
doing.
nope. You
I can
feel everything. You feel when the
everything,
needle turn, twist.
I
Yeah,
feel this.
and I'm there,
Oh my
and then I just feel, and then when they're done, I just feel emasculated. Like I just feel like say,
yeah.
everything what that I stand on, all of my dignity and everything just gone, and
Gone.
I'm just here wondering, boy, God, I don't
God.
know I don't know where I went wrong or where my parents went wrong, but this cannot be it.
Yeah.
This cannot be it because I will take everything else, give me everything else, even though I can't manage nothing. But I don't want to have to deal with paraprism. How do I explain? All right, I'm in a relationship. How do I explain to my partner that I'm having paraprism or this is what is happening to me? I think that's a difficult and
No,
uncomfortable
but
conversation
stop,
to
but
have.
stop. Don't even get there. Say, Alex, how do you
Hmm.
explain it in the work environment when there's a sudden occurrence of priapism, and then when our society is not properly educated about what goes on with a person, especially a man who lives with sickle cell, you are now labeled as someone that is perverted because you're now walking around in an office space with an erection that is not even erotically stimulated.
Right.
So you can continue from the relationship. So I just have to put it out there for the listeners that are listening.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had to experience it from that aspect, but I can just imagine. I can just imagine what comes with it because that's true. I think that is more uncomfortable than having the relationship talk and so forth. But then when you have to explain these stuff, or when it just happens out of nowhere, and you're like, "Boy, I have to go to the hospital," and they're like, "Why?" And you're like, "I'm sick."
Yeah.
Yeah, we know you're always sick. What is happening this time? I'm like, I have a painful erection. What do you mean? And then I have to know, say, all right, go on Google to look on this, so you have an idea, and then I come back and I explain it to you. So you can, but then even then, it's just like I have so much questions, and I'm like, me too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
yeah,
am I
yeah,
going
yeah,
to do?
yeah,
And so I
yeah.
think I take, give me everything else, but I don't want to deal with that. But that's just not how life works. Life doesn't give you lemons and lemonade all the time. So I just have to deal with it and tough it out. And something I even remember, and if we're being open and transparent, I even remember I was having paraplegism so badly that at one point I was diagnosed with I think scarring or fibrosis, where because it happens so much, the tissues are started to get damaged. So
Yeah.
after a while, I wouldn't even need a full on erection. I can just be having pain without it. Something. And then that now is harder to explain because now I'm telling the doctors, hey, I'm having pain in the genitalia, but it's not fully erected. So it's not a prior prism, but it stemmed from a prior prism, and they're looking at me like that don't make any sense. I went to medical school and that don't make no sense to me. Oh, and I'm saying, well, this is what the urologist told me. I'm telling you what the specialist told me. So how are you belittling me and coming at me
Belittling
for something?
information. Yeah.
Right. I'm just informing you what was said to me. So I have pain in the area because of the damaged tissue and so forth. And this is what I go through. So I'm having pain there. What can and then it's like a back and forth thing. And then what you have to understand, or what I try my best to be very cordial. I know some doctors and nurses are on here listening because I sent the link and I want to be. I am not trying to be spiteful. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. Pain is subjective. Please do not look at me walking around and tell me that I'm not feeling pain.
Can I just add to that real quick? There was an instance where I was on the road, and normally, if I'm having a crisis, my instinct is to go home first and then get someone to accompany me. But this particular time, I recognized the pain level was already way through the roof. So
Mhm.
if I had gone home, they would probably have to lift me back out of the house to get me into a vehicle, which has been the case. And if my friend Rutan is on the live, she can attest to this. Where you see a grown man screaming, um, crawling on the ground, trying to get out of the house to get inside a vehicle. There are many instances where the taxi would come and I would have to beg the taxi man to have patience with me because it would be difficult to get inside the vehicle. So I
Right.
remember walking into the emergency room one day and won't call the name of the hospital as in Kingston, closer to downtown, give it a direction so you know where it is. Um, and one of the doctors looked at me and said, there's no way you're in pain, and walk inside the emergency room. And I was floored. And I said, why would you say that? He's like, you can't have sickle cell and walk in the emergency room. If you need so much pain, how no fear walk up and down. You see, I can't bother with this. Make one nurse register you. And I had to say to myself, am I going to go through this again, God? Because you present yourself and you say, hey, my name is Noel Bell. I live with sickle cell and I'm having a crisis. But because you're not pushed in a wheelchair, you're not screaming, and there's this idea that pain, and I've said this repeatedly in this conversation that unlike a wound where you're seeing blood and you know that the person is bleeding and you need to stop the bleeding, that's not the same thing with pain. You cannot see pain, so there is no way to gauge it from the person's face, because a lot of us persons who live with sickle cell, we are masters of working through pain. I know a lot of persons who live with sickle cell that they can have a very painful day and they are getting through the day because in the back of their mind, all right, the pain is not at this level yet. I can just keep going, but when it gets to this level, I know I might need to go get to a hospital or anything like that. So we've learned to work with pain in our body. there was even a conversation I was having, just to wrap this real quick, conversation I was having with one of our VPs in the Sickle Cell Foundation, that when you're going about your regular day, you have to be making preparation for pain management as opposed to somebody else that doesn't live with sickle cell. So you have to be walking around with a lot of opioids. You have to be thinking, how hot is the day, how much water I might need for the day. And you just have to be having a plan. It's almost like you have to be saying to the people around you, if it gets to this level, just know that I'm going to the hospital. So I understand you, Alex. And for the persons who are listening, we are not here complaining. We're here sharing the
Right.
realities of what we deal with as men. I don't know if Jermaine had that experience, with the priapism. But for me, the first time I experienced it, I was like, as you rightly say, Alex, I don't know if a white fowl somebody for me to eat. But this can't get worse than this, because um it one, it's embarrassing, two, it's painful, and then just listening to what the urologist is saying, it brings another gloom on you to say, if sickle cell gets to the point where it damages this,
Right.
there is a possibility that if you're in a relationship with your lover, and there are persons who will understand, and some may understand, there might be a time that you may not be able to satisfy them romantically. It is a scary reality. So
It
I don't
is.
know if Jermaine has experienced priapism, or if we can move on from it. But let's see what Jermaine has to say.
Okay. All right. All right. So as I told you before, when I was growing up, I just really never wanted to know anything about sickle cell. Like, I just wanted to stay as far away as I could from it, even though I can't literally separate myself from it. In my mind, I just never wanted to have it. I never wanted to know anything about it. I felt like the more I know about it was the more I was accepting the fact that what I have sickle cell, and I never wanted to. I was kind of rebelling in my own way against this. But I remember years before I attended college, I was home one day and I was just there chilling, and then I had an erection, but I don't know where the erection come from. But I never knew nothing about priapism, so I didn't even know that this possibly could have been or was priapism at the time. So it just came about, and it was there. I'm like, okay, and I was like looking at the time. I was like, "So what is happening? Like, I mean, this has been going on for a long while now. Me jog, me exercise.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
doing that stuff just to see if it would go away. Because now, man, when they're going through, when they have the
Yeah.
erection, where you probably go take a cold shower, you probably go
That
a
doesn't
jog,
work.
you try a mirage of things, and that was me around the house. And I was doing other things, trying to get rid of this, and I realized that it wasn't going away. It was really there for a long time. Um, but I didn't know what it was. Like, I never know what was happening. I was like, okay, it eventually went away, and that was my first and only experience with that. And then afterwards, when I learned about those things, because I remember going to the hospital one time, and the lady was asking me if I've ever had something like that, and when she explained it to me, in the back of my mind, I remember when I did have it, but me tell her no, because I told her no, because I never wanted her to be going down there to do any form of check, and that was just felt too embarrassing. And I told her no. I remember when they were also doing some. Oh, Noel is gone again.
Um,
But and sharing it. I think you come back soon. I remember when I was at the unit, and they were doing some tests, and they wanted some volunteers to volunteer some study around the janitorial areas, and to get it, whether if it wasn't scanned, it was um get a, what call that thing, X-ray or something. And I was like, no. I wanted to help in the study. I
I
really
was a
did.
part of that study.
But I was just like, oh no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I could be in a position where nobody that I don't know is really handling my business down
It
there. And it
was
was
it was
just
not very friendly at all.
yeah.
I can talk about it. That was one of the things that I regret doing.
Oh, God. So I'm glad that I did not take up the
I
offer.
did the price
But
kind of.
I really, what I realized that I really have to give God thanks because I believe that I am the way I am now, especially with Sickle Cell, because God has done so much for me. You know what I realized that living with this, it's all about your mindset.
Yeah.
It's all about how you think and how you accept certain things in your life and speak certain things over your life. You get me? Because growing up with this, I told you before that I was struggling with accepting it in the first place. Yeah. But eventually I came to a point where I said, okay, all right, apparently this is my reality. Yeah. This is my reality and I can't do nothing about it. But how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to handle it? You know, especially as a man who is expected to be a man, and as society want to frame us out. We can't cry, we can't do this, we can't do that, and we have to surpass all of that. But how I attacked it was from a mental state of being. I just I just believe that this thing cannot affect me. I just believe that I can do anything regardless of having this. I just believe that um I was able and I was not less than anybody else. And this was the mindset that I adopted. Even when sometimes when I was feeling pain, I was like, cause them say, oh, your mind is powerful enough. Cause sometimes you can know that when you're feeling pain, the message they send to your brain, oh, yeah, I feel pain now. So you need to cry or you need to get
Yeah.
some medication or something. So sometimes when I was feeling pain, I usually just used to block it out. Like I just wanted to block it out and like, all right, I'm not feeling this. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it never worked, and I had to go get medication. I used to have to travel around and make sure I had something in my bag that if and when I should feel like I am going to have an attack, I just take it and move on. I remember forcing myself to drink a lot of water because me here say you have to drink a lot of water. If you don't drink a lot of water, then it increases your chances of having painful crises. And you can't go to the beach and stay too long in the water. You can't get too cold. And as I grew, I started learning more about it and understanding it more because I never had that intention when I was younger. And it is only because Noel and Alex that I am over this really why I can sit before you right here and
Yeah.
actually share these things with you. Because years gone by, you could have not caught me in a forum like this
Yeah.
because I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to face it. I don't want to do nothing because it made me feel less than myself.
Yeah.
And I never got over it. But because I've gotten over it, I realized that it cannot really hold me down. I can achieve with or without it, and but with it, and I have done that. So what is there next to do? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I just keep going on and taking on new challenges. Anything life throws at me, I tackle it and I move on.
I love the perspective, Jermaine. I want to see if we can wrap this in about at most 6 minutes. Um,
Yeah,
the mental health side of sickle cell doesn't get a lot of conversation. Well, mental health, especially in men, generally doesn't get a lot of conversation here in our island. And I've often wondered, for the persons who don't have a sense of community, because I do sense where you had community, Jermaine, and I know Alex, most of your community would have been like a friend circle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking on my life and I'm saying I'm blessed because I have parents who they were quick on the ball. So they did their best to ensure that, a crisis, if I'm at home and I was trying to tough it out, they would, encourage me to get to the hospital to seek medical help, or just the friends that were willing to, if I needed the blood test done, to deliver the blood test to the lab, or just the millions of things that people were willing to do in my support system. But there are days when, even with the greatest of support, sickle cell gets to you. You'd be having a great day, you'd have plans, you'd want to get certain things done, and then boom, here comes a crisis. You weren't doing anything wrong, you're being hydrated, you're trying to keep your stress levels low, you're trying to do everything that is right. But then those days happen. For the persons who are listening, I just wanted to, like, 2 minutes each, like, how has living with sickle cell affected your mental health, both on the negative and the positive side? I'm going to start with you, Alex, real quick, in 2 minutes.
All right. So I didn't know. I said to persons that most of my I was diagnosed with mild depression in 2021, so 2021, and I had to start taking antidepressants for it to help me and support. And all of that came from having crisis and being going to the hospital frequently. All of that because my frequency started in 2020, 2021 when I started having to go a lot of getting sick every minute and I had to go to the ER over and over and over and over. And that's when the depression started formulating and I had to go on this and something. And the negative aspect of it is that I didn't ask for this. But I have to live with it. It is my job now to push through it, and it is my job to advocate and to encourage and to share what is happening. I am not going to hold it down because I need persons to understand and to know that we're out here trying. This is not what we asked for. This is not what we want, but this is what is happening. This is a reality that we're facing now, and we just have to push through it. The positive aspect is that I get to encourage at the same time. I get to share the stories. I get to do everything that I need to do. I mean, Jermaine said that he push it, him try to push it aside or try to put. I admire to get like that. I aspire to get like that. I have a lot of limitations, and I try my best not to push myself too hard in anything that I'm doing. Because, as you say, we have to every time we have to prepare ourselves for a crisis that is coming. Every time I get money, I have to budget a money just in case I need to go to the hospital, just in case I have to. My taxi fare is there at any point in the morning to carry me and support and stuff like that. So I don't have the luxury of what he's talking about. I wish to get that at some point in time, but that's not for me. And that is just the reality that it is. And I pray that one of my biggest desires is that nurses and doctors will just take some time to understand what is happening. Don't get frustrated as you see we walk through the door. Don't skin up your face as you see we come. Oh, here is Alex again. Here comes Henry again. Oh, a medication alone him come for him this and him that. And when I tell you that I'm allergic to A, B, C, and D, you're gonna say everything you're allergic to, just this alone you want, man. Just this alone you want. And then me nah ball. And then you cuss me come now but because my pain threshold is so high. But then if a woman, and I'm speaking directly, if a woman is on menstruating, she's allowed to push through her day and continue living, and you're not gonna know. And nobody's scrutinizing that. But me in a crisis, I'm in a ball and go on the most way. But I say, oh, I'm in 8 out of 10 pain. Which papa you then at 8 out of 10 pain? That makes sense to you? And then it's also I pray that these things will be looked upon and just have a little grace for us and and not every sickle cell person that you come across is just like the last person that you see. We are all not the same thing. We don't all go through the same things. We are different human beings with different lifestyle, with different everything. Do not compare us. Do not group us in one basket. Don't do that. I find it very offensive. And it's sick. I have sickle cell. I'm not a sickler. Please do not call me a sickler. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. Yeah, we're trying to move away from those words of discrimination that, oh, this is a sickler. We no longer use those terms. Those terms are derogative. As a matter of fact, we are now trying to reshape the sentence to say persons living with sickle cell rather than sickle cell patient, because we're not a patient every day. We just happen to be a human being living with a disease that causes a lot of pain. So, real quick, Jermaine, your 2 minutes, both negative and positive.
Right. At the end of my 2 minutes, I want to share a poem that I wrote about sickle cell
Uh huh.
when I finished. I am very expressive with poetry. That's how I really express myself. But mental state, both positive and negative. Let me start with the negative, of course. As I said before, I felt like sickle cell kind of robbed me of a lot of experience in my
Mm,
lifetime, and because of that, it really has an impact on me that makes me feel as if, I'm always, something is always holding on to me. There's always this chain or this bondage that is holding on to me, that that threatens to attack me at any possible time of the day, anywhere, anyhow. I felt as though, where my socialization was concerned, I never fully developed that growing up, because I kept to myself because of sickle cell. I never had much friends. I never talked to people because I never wanted to have to tell them that this is what I was struggling with, because again, a fear of what may come after that. Um, and just the whole communication, just the whole being stressed and keeping everything on the inside. And at times I feel like you want to explode because there's so much going on and you're not expressing it. So on that side of it, being a negative side, sickle cell affected me in that way. But how I channel this to be positive is that I use it as a stepping stone. I condition my mind that, here what, yes, you're here, yes, you have times when you want to knock me down, but guess what, I'm not going to allow you to allow me to fail in life, because I still believe that I have certain responsibilities that I have to do, I have to carry out, I have to live on. I have to be the person to take care of my family, to take care of my brothers and sisters. I'm not gonna allow you to stop me. So every time you come, you might hit me, don't know, but I'm gonna step up anyways, and I'm gonna continue. Even sometimes when I'm going through it, just as though you would have been struggling with the morphine in your system to focus on school, and Alex, this and that, where school is concerned and being sick. Um, I just don't see it as a limitation. I don't see it as anything that will hold me down anymore. So that's how I think about it, as something that would push me forward to achieve everything in life that God has planned out for me, and not just myself, but His will for my life. And that's basically how I twist it. So because I push. Yeah, Six has taught me to push. It has taught me to push beyond the limits. It has taught me to push beyond the barriers, and achieve and really go get whatever it is that I want to go get out there. Right now, I'm studying to become. I'm studying nursing right now,
mm,
because of what I have experienced myself, living with that and going through that. Because I mean, I can make a change out there in the world, and that's what I'm studying right now
mhm.
to really. I want to do my clinicals, my practical rotations at the unit. If it is even possible, because I want to be able to deal with persons who I know can relate to me, or I can relate to, as how they as how they should be treated, because they that can relate, somebody can understand, will be dealing with them. So I look forward to the day when I finish my studies and I can actually go out there in the world of work to contribute to the community at large. Um, the poem that I wrote, when I was thinking about, just sickle cell, and trying to even spread the awareness. It says, it lives within, it plagues inside, like a constant reminder hovering over my life, handed down to me through genes so mean. By chance, I was chosen to carry this hereditary disease. Just a red blood cell in its abnormal stage, like a banana, it flows through my veins, threatening to clog my vessels each day, robbing me of the oxygen I need to sustain. I have sickle cell, but I dare not fame in a life of struggle and constant pain, doing my part to make everyone aware of the strength it takes and how I overcame. To endure this journey, you have to fight. Be that warrior and hold on tight. And that is the poem I wrote. You
Wow,
know,
wow, wow, Jermaine. That is inspiring. Can we just get some hearts going up on Instagram and also in the comment, guys? That's powerful. Um, That's powerful. I almost don't want to share my, negatives right after that. I felt like I should have just let you end it with that. But we we
That's right.
we we, we spent an hour, guys, and we were just talking about our perspective and what our life has been like living with sickle cell. And we are probably 1% of the Jamaican population that has a forum like this that we can talk about, or the things that we have experienced and we continue to navigate through. And there's still a set of people out there because of the stigmas and, the lack of confidence, just to put it that way, that they don't have, why they are unable to step up and to really defend themselves. But I really just want to commend you guys, and just to commend us, as men who, in our own rights, we try our best to advocate for those living with sickle cell. Because for me, I realized when I was younger, I was dealing with a lot of trauma because of going to the hospital so frequently. And I wasn't paying much attention to my mental state. So it started manifested in my latter years when I realized that just going to the hospital became a very traumatic experience for me. Um, Especially for those who would have caught the tweet that I tweeted, I believe it was sometime last year, where I went to the hospital and
Yeah, I
in
remember
one of
that.
the worst crises, a nurse looked at me and told me that she would not help me out of the bed to pass my urine, or when the fact that I needed to be transferred to another ward and I was denied a wheelchair, so they were telling me I had to walk to the ward, even though I was in excruciating pain. So we've seen some stuff, we've seen some dark days, and one of the things that I'm now going to try and lobby for is just that there is a research in mental health in persons living with sickle cell, so that we can gauge where some of these patients are with suicide ideation. Because I know the thoughts would have come. And if we're being honest, many of us would have prayed that prayer where we say, God, take we now. And if we had the option to take our life and not be here, there's 10 times to one that we probably would have taken our life. But
Yeah.
I have learned to take solace in the fact that I have a relationship with God. And I could
Yes.
not have navigated sickle cell without friends, community, and God. I have met friends along the way that have made it way more easier to live with. And there's a friend of mine, I'll never forget her. She was one of the only friends I can remember that came to look for me when I had sickle cell. Female friend, that is. And, you know, I got sick one day, just to share this experience real quick. I got sick one day and I had a best friend. And the guy was at the hospital with me and I needed to go to the bathroom. And my best friend, he could not help me to the bathroom because he was just so shattered by how he saw me. And that female friend jumped around and took me to the hospital. So we're talking about privacy and dignity. Being sick and in the hospital, you lose that.
Then I have none.
You don't have that again. So that person, whoever she is in the world, I am immensely grateful for the fact that she was at, my bedside giving jokes, trying to ensure that, I was
Yeah.
laughing through the pain. I won't call her name, but I believe she's on the Instagram live. I think she's on the live. She was making some points. But yeah, the fact that, and then there are other friends that I met along the way that, they did their best just to listen. So they would check in and they would say, what going on with you? How's your mental health? And they were just trying to ensure that, I was taking care of myself mentally, ensuring that I was talking. But for the other persons who are out there, I have to enforce this. Noel could not have navigated 33 years of life without a relationship with God. It is God. There are
It is.
moments when
Yeah,
I want to throw in the towel, and I'm not trying to put it up, enough time I say, boy, I may have the Panadine and may have just I go swallow the whole box and call it a day. Right? But by the grace of God, I'm still alive. So I give God thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight just to really share with you guys and how I began having a positive mindset. I remember in 2019 when I officially started doing the documentary, because it has always been something I wanted to do. When I did the documentary, and I have this punchline, and it is my punchline to this day that I have sickle cell, it doesn't have me. And I want the rest of the persons who are here tonight on this live, whether you're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, um, remind yourself that you have the disease doesn't have you. And even in the days when the pains are really messing with us, because those it's not a matter of if those days are gonna come, it's a matter of when.
When?
And
Yeah.
those days, just try your best to remind yourself, I have sickle cell, it doesn't have me. So I really want to thank you guys, that we've been having these conversations over the last 3 Thursdays, because last week Thursday we had a presentation by one of our specialists at the unit. um, Let us keep the conversations going on where sickle cell is concerned. It is not one of those diseases such as cancer that gets a lot of attention. It's September and it's supposed to be Sickle Cell Awareness Month. And I'm still disappointed where we are in terms of knowledge-based information, but we still push through. We still try our best to ensure that we who are alive and can make a difference, we're still leading the conversation. I hope one day sickle cell in Jamaica does get the attention like cancer in Jamaica, where people are, and maybe we need to start a campaign that is called Get Tested, where we're getting more persons to um, get
To
to
the
know
screen
their
and
sickle
stuff. Yeah.
cell status. Yeah, because I'm still a dreamer that we can lower the incident rate in Jamaica, but it starts with getting more persons to know their sickle cell status. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here tonight. We would have had this conversation about an hour and 30 minutes, thereabouts. So thank you guys so much. Um, this concludes the end of sickle cell month. I will see where what we can do to continue conversations like these. And if there are persons out there that would love to give to the foundation, we are not funded, and we would take donations. You can reach out to me via my Instagram, and I can give you a number, or you can reach out to us on our Facebook page. That's the Sickle Cell Support Foundation. You just go on Facebook and look for the Sickle Cell Support Foundation, or we are on Instagram at let me see if I can get the handle right. SCSFJ underscore. So that's SCSFJ underscore on Instagram. Reach out to us. We'd be grateful for any donation. Or if you're listening from overseas and you'd like to partner with us, we'd appreciate the partnership to raise funds. We do have a lot of patients in our country that they don't have the luxury of working because of the illness that they live with. It's not that they are incompetent, but life just throw them some curveball and they don't get to go to every day like a lot of other persons that don't have the disease to work at honest bread. We do support them. Sometimes we have to help them with, money for food. So we're asking for kind donation. Want to
And
also
to add to that,
big up my VP that was on our Instagram live. I remember seeing Alicia, um, and Alicia, whether she's one of the VP, and I believe I also saw our president, Camille, online with us. So, guys, just want to thank you so much for listening. And I feel like I want to end this particular live with prayer, because it may be the lead to the conversations for this month. I don't know
yeah.
if we will continue it into next month, but I feel like these conversations, they do help with, getting the knowledge out there. So let's just pray. Father, we just give you thanks for the opportunity to really share on this Instagram live. Lord, we do not know whose life was impacted by our conversation tonight, who was inspired. Father, there may be someone, watching on one of these platforms that felt afraid to share their testimony, to share their story of what it has been like living with sickle cell. But I pray tonight, God, that even as men, we would have shared that, we could not have done it without you. I pray, God, for continued strength for the many persons across our island, Jamaica, that lives with sickle cell. Father, whether it be a trait, whether it be the full-blown disease, you understand the plethora of things that comes with living with the disease. But Lord, I pray for your strength, and I still believe in the healing Jesus, the Jesus who healed, the God who continues to heal, Jehovah Rapha. So Lord, even now, let virtue begin to flow from your body to
Yes.
theirs even now. We pray, God, that you deliver them from crises, Lord God. Father, that you
Yes.
strengthen them.
Thank you.
That,
Thank you.
Lord, they will just have days of peace where they're not going through pains. And Lord, if you desire to create a cure in the land, an accessible cure, Father, we pray that, the scientists, that you'll give them the minds, that they'll be able to come up, Lord God, with all the formulas and the procedures to work on a cure for the next generation, Almighty God, that may have to live with this disease. We pray, Almighty God, for your continued blessings upon us. And we thank you for your peace. We thank you for your grace. I will give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, just want
Amen.
to thank you so much for journeying with me through this conversation. It has been my pleasure being your host. Tonight I had with me two lovely gentlemen, warriors and heroes in their own right, Alex Henry and Jermaine Harris. These guys are champions living with the disease. They have the disease doesn't have them. And if you know someone with sickle cell, just reach out to them, just find out as much, not to invade their privacy too much, but just to see how well you can serve them, what else you can learn for them. And my question to you as you leave is, do you know your sickest status? So have yourself a good night, guys. Gentle
All right. It
people,
was
thank you so much for being here. We end the stream.
Thank you for having
All right,
us.
thanks much.
Yeah, man. So maybe drink my water and take me to Panadine now, guys. Yeah,
Go
so
back
we
to
don't end
bed.
up in a
I mean,
full-blown crisis.
so,
All right.
All
Enjoy
right,
the rest
guys.
of your
All the
night,
best.
guys.
all right, take care,
Bye
guys.
bye.
Yeah.